A phone that hasn't even been announced yet is already creating a problem Samsung might not be ready for, because the Galaxy S27 Pro is starting to look less like a middle model and more like the phone that quietly steals the entire spotlight from the Ultra. And it starts with something simple, but dangerous for the Ultra's identity. A leaked report from tipster Croonx claims the S27 Pro is being tested with a 5000 mAh battery. Nothing shocking there, right? Samsung has used that size in Ultra models for years. But then you add the second detail, a 6.47-inch display. That combination suddenly changes everything. We're not talking about equal battery life anymore. We're talking about a smaller phone potentially lasting longer than a bigger, more expensive Ultra, just because physics finally starts working in its favor. Even a 10 to 15% drop in display power draw can completely shift real-world endurance when you're sitting at the same battery capacity. But here's where Samsung's strategy starts looking suspiciously clever. Another leak suggests the S27 Pro might drop S Pen support completely. And at first, that sounds like a downgrade, until you realize what that actually does internally. Removing the digitizer layer and stylus hardware frees up precious internal space. We're talking about room for either a larger battery cell, better cooling, or even both. That's not a compromise, that's a design choice that prioritizes efficiency over features most people barely use. And then comes the part that should make Ultra buyers slightly uncomfortable. Early leaks hint that the S27 Pro may inherit the same main and ultra-wide camera sensors as the Ultra. Not similar, the same hardware class. If that turns out to be true, then the Pro stops being a budget flagship in disguise. It becomes a compact flagship that just skips the experimental extras, and that's the first moment this lineup starts feeling upside down, because while the Pro is getting dangerously practical, the Ultra is going full science project mode. Leaked information from analysts like Dubai and Roy suggests the Galaxy S27 Ultra is being tested with a massive 6.9-inch 2K LTPO OLED panel using Samsung's next-gen M16 display tech. That alone could push brightness close to 3.0 nits while improving efficiency by around 10% compared to the S26 generation. So yes, it's brighter, sharper, more advanced, but also bigger and more power-hungry by default. Then comes the performance jump, and this one is brutal. The Ultra is rumored to run Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 6 built on a 2nm process. That's not just incremental, that's the kind of jump that can deliver around 20 to 25% better performance per watt. Add LPDDR6 RAM and UFS 5.0 storage into the mix, and you're looking at a phone that doesn't just feel fast, it feels like it's skipping steps, apps opening almost instantly, background tasks barely registering load, and gaming performance pushing well beyond current thermal limits. But here's the catch. Power without balance is just heat waiting to happen, and Samsung seems to know it. That's why battery rumors for the Ultra are now pushing towards something insane. Nearly 6,000 mAh. If that number holds, combined with 2nm efficiency gains, we could be looking at the first mainstream Samsung flagship that consistently pushes into 2-day battery territory under normal use, not light use. Normal use, and yet, none of that is the most interesting part. Because the real argument isn't about power or battery or display anymore, it's about cameras. The Ultra is expected to feature a 200MP HP6 main sensor, a 50MP ultrawide, and a 50MP 5x periscope telephoto lens. On paper, that looks unbeatable. More zoom, more flexibility, more Ultra identity. But then the S27 Pro enters the conversation with a rumored 50MP 3.5x telephoto lens, and suddenly everything gets messy because in real-world photography, especially portraits, 3.5x isn't just less zoom. It's often the sweet spot. It gives more natural facial proportions, better depth compression, and a more cinematic look without forcing you too far away from your subject. That means the Pro might actually produce photos people prefer posting, even if the Ultra technically wins on paper. And that's the twist Samsung might not be able to market easily. The cheaper phone might feel more human. The expensive one might feel more technical. So now we're staring at a lineup where the Pro might win battery efficiency, win everyday camera usability, and feel more balanced, while the Ultra wins raw specs, raw power, and raw ambition, and that leads to a very uncomfortable possibility. What if the Galaxy S27 Pro is not the middle option at all, but the one Samsung accidentally tuned for real life? Because if these leaks are even close to accurate, Samsung isn't just upgrading phones anymore. They're splitting philosophies. One device for maximum capability, one for maximum usability. And the gap between them is starting to feel intentional. So here's the real question. If the Pro ends up giving you better battery behavior and more natural photos, would you still chase the Ultra just because it sounds more powerful? Because right now, the leaks are suggesting something rare in the smartphone world. The Pro might actually be the smarter flagship. And if this is just the beginning of the S27 story, the next leaks might make this debate even more uncomfortable. Now tell me this. Are you Team Balance Pro or Team All Out Ultra? And if you want, I can also turn this into a full viral voiceover plus pacing guide with pauses, music cues, and emphasis points, so it performs better on retention.